that you're good to go.
No, they should do the
Oh, the little clap down thing?
yeah with the little clack thing.
Got scene!
Flapper.
1, 2, 3. I don't know if that's what it's called. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right.
Showtime.
I think it's showtime. That was creepy. I'm sorry. All right, what's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Mile High Roundtable. It was a very cheeky game last Sunday. I figured I'd put that in there. And we're going to dig into it, let you know the good, the bad, and everything in between what we saw. We're also going to take a look at the Falcons game. And we will fill you in on any Broncos news. You know, I just noticed on that song there's a little country twang in there.
Yeah, I was about to say, what was that about?
You need to throw in a banjo and then we'll call it good.
Just don't throw in that Christmas music yet. It's not time.
Oh, that's playing in my car anytime I hop in. Like the 12:01 on November 1st, Christmas music was in my car.
Mariah Carey's not welcome in my car till December 1st.
No, it's the NSYNC Christmas. You gotta go boy band, Adon.
Oh my God. That's even cool.
All right, before we get into anything, you can catch us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. We also have Twitch. Again, still haven't been able to figure that one out. I'll work on it. We'll see. But go ahead and head over to one of those pages on YouTube. Thumbs up, subscribe, turn on notifications. On Twitter at MHRT Podcast. Leave us any questions, concerns, comments. If you have any complaints, give it to Glenn. I don't want to hear it. On Facebook, like and follow. Again, we stream on every single one of those. So, let's dig into the game. Holy bananas. That was nutty.
That's one way to put it.
It was... Okay, so, first half.
A tale of two games, right?
First half was not good. Not good at all. Second half, a lot better. So let's dig into... Let's start with the first half so we can get the bad out of the way first. What were you guys seeing in the first half that had you a little concerned? Or very concerned?
That first half, I was almost watching myself taking my jersey off and folding it and putting it away for next week.
Well, at least you folded it, though.
Well, I fold it after every loss, and I do it carefully, you know.
He's got one of those boards that the Gap has, and he just
Yeah, you know,
You
the one
flip over the sides?
Yeah, and that's on a good loss. On a bad loss, I just toss it in the corner, and I'm like, I'll see you guys next week. But it's was one of those games that tests the patience of every single Broncos fan out there. You know, especially if you follow them on social media and they put that, you know, they try to find some light in that storm of whatever you want to call it. And unfortunately, most of the comments that follow those posts are not that enlightening. They're pretty much, you know, the same things you see all the time. Fire Elway, fire Fangio, drop Drew Lock. You know, the offense sucks. And there's really no positivity. But when the Broncos came back, I was expecting to see more positive, but there were some positive notes, but there was also still those critics. So that to me was a little bit concerning, because if that comeback wasn't enough to impress Broncos fans, I don't know what it is that they're looking for. I honestly don't. What does this offense have to do to, you know, to win back the crowd? Because to me, I thought it was great. You know, obviously the first half was trash, but you know, they came back in the second half and they put up 3 touchdowns. They limited the Chargers to only, what was it, a touchdown in the third half and a field goal. And the rest of the time, the defense did their job. So, and they came back and won the game against a division rival. And any football fan knows that the hardest games to win are division games. So I just don't know what to tell you. Enjoy the win, and if you don't, then go cheer for somebody else.
I think I logged more yards walking to the bathroom in the first half than the Broncos did, but thank goodness there's halftime and there's the second tier, because that was what a finish. And it's when Adon was saying it's the hardest time to win is against divisions. The hardest time to win too is when you need a win. The hardest time. I mean, think about what would have happened had the Broncos lost that game. What would this week have been like in terms of attacking the quarterback, attacking the coach, attacking all the players? I don't have a problem with the players booing them off the field.
Not when they deserve it.
I don't know what 5,700 boos sounds like.
It sounds like boo 5,700.
Yeah.
The South Park characters were even booing, but it's you mentioned when the chips are down. It was really the second half. You could say when the cheeks are down, because those two catches and those 2 touchdowns were fantastic, and I'm sure we'll get into that. We should probably address it. Christy is not with us today. She's under the weather, but we wanted to wish her well. And I'm just seeing that she just made a comment, but
Pepto-Bismol is in the mail.
Hi, Christy.
Truth be told, I heard she was meeting with Joe Ellis about trying to get them to sell the team, and once she had to go into quarantine. But we'll
Christy's a lot closer with the Bolin family than most people realize.
Yeah. Well, the backwards hat is because leaders don't wear backwards hats, according to Colin Cowherd. So,
oh, geez.
I just wanted to prove him correct, I guess.
You just made my blood boil saying that man's name.
Okay, so at every game I take notes to kind of, or observations to kind of remember what I'm looking at. So if the game had ended and the Broncos had played the entire game like they played in the first half, the amount of crap that Shermer would have gotten, the amount of crap that Fangio would have gotten, and the amount of crap that Locke would have gotten, honestly would have been pretty well deserved after that first half. That was bad.
So do you use a different color crayon for the positive and the negative comment?
I write the whole thing in crayon. So there, what do you say about that? I use all the bright yellow and white crayon on white paper. So, we had that whole conversation about Drew Lock last week. And I think in the first half, everything seemed to kind of compound all at once. He was still having issues with his reads. He wasn't stepping into the plays. He wasn't giving his offensive line the time to protect him. And it seemed like what they did was, instead of having his first read be a deep shot, they just made his first read a short. Because he was just throwing it short over and over. And it was like he was overcompensating, which was just maddening. They barely gave the ball to Lindsey. And you could definitely tell that they were missing Tim Patrick. And it seemed like the offense was playing so bad, the defense was just like, no, we're done. And that whole second quarter, they just played like crap.
No, I agree, Mike. It almost started to feel like the defense was like, look, if you guys, in terms of you guys being the offense, aren't going to go out there and try, then, we're not going to put in the effort. We'll just, bring it in and call it a day. Because going into that third touchdown by the Chargers, that's almost how it felt. Because then it was, 21-3?
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened. I'm pretty sure somebody in that huddle offensively said, hey, guys, we can still win this. And I've been saying this for the longest. The duo of Philip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon, when they're together, is amazing. And on that drive, proved it, because that defensive scheme, they didn't really know if they stack the box, if they play the outside and wait for the dump off like Drew Lock has been doing for most of that game. But when you get a guy like Philip Lindsay who can run in between the tackles and you give him an inch, he'll give you a yard. And that's exactly what he did. He ran for 55 yards. Thanks for some good blocking by the offensive line, which, by the way, was also struggling in this game without Glasgow. So he was the catalyst for this offense to say, basically saying, "Hey, we're still in this. We're not out of it yet. We can come back." And that's exactly what happened. We finally saw some play from Deshaun Hamilton, a guy who I've been ragging on this entire season. And I'll admit, I'll eat a little bit of crow on some of the things that I said about him, but I won't eat all of it because I don't think that just one touchdown in one season is enough to redeem yourself. He has to go out there and prove that he's still worth a roster spot come next offseason. Because if it's one thing that Denver is heavy on, with depth in, it's wide receiver. So he needs to go out there and show what he can do. Same thing with Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy played a pretty good game. He didn't have any drop catches, but I'm pretty sure that the best is still yet to come for him.
Yeah, and I'm trying to figure out what happened with the offensive line. Like, I know that Reisner was back and Glasgow was gone, but I don't understand the penalties that Bowles was starting to get. Like, he hasn't had penalties like that in any of the games, and in the second half he didn't have those penalties either. So it just seemed like for some reason nothing was working in the first half.
Yeah, one of the penalties he got, from what I saw, was actually pretty it was a pretty dumb flag. He obviously pushed the defender from behind when the defender had his back turned. The other one, I believe he was just as Garrett Bowles holding, which I kind of cut him a little bit of slack on because he was defending against Joey Bosa, one of the best pass rushers in the league.
He went out though, right? When did he go out?
Yeah, he went out, I think, sometime in the third quarter with a concussion.
Oh, there you go. That's why the holding stopped.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was.
I thought Bosa was lining up with. I thought Bosa was supposed to line up against Dotson.
Bosa and Ingram, if I'm not mistaken, were rotating. I could be wrong.
Isn't Ingram inside?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't care. It's the Chargers.
We'll learn more about him next time they play.
Yeah, but
of course, I'm sorry.
I just one more point. Fangio was kind of playing in a bit of a handicap because he didn't have his DC this game, and his DC is basically his eye in the sky. So we were basically back to the Fangio from last season, who was not used to seeing the defensive schemes, on the ground level, and he was so used to always seeing it from the box. But he finally learned enough where he can make calls, even though he doesn't have that eye in the sky. And it was, just enough for the defense to still be good and still be productive.
Well, one of the points about the offensive line is their coach was gone. So Munchak was out as well with the COVID. But, that left Chris Cooper in charge of the offensive line. And
nasty.
And, of course, I'm sorry, the nasty.
Don't forget.
And, we all have to still blame Cooper for allowing the Broncos to sign Jawan James. When he had been a coach with the Dolphins, so he knew all about this guy and still allowed it to happen. And then we come to find out that the Dolphins were actually laughing about the signing, that they couldn't believe that anyone would give them that kind of money.
They still are.
I am too, a little bit, until I realize that he's coming back and we're paying him a lot of money.
We need him.
He can't even grow hair, so how is he supposed to play football?
I'm
sorry.
I resemble it.
It's been it's been a while.
But it was funny because Bowles, they were doing like preliminary all-pro teams for the season, and Bowles had made that list right before the game, a couple of days before, and sure enough, he has his worst game of the season. But let's move on from some of the negativity and let's go back to.
Well, there was one more thing, basically, because you were talking about Bowles being on that All-Pro list. There's a story that actually came out from Reese Jones-Drew on NFL.com saying that Philip Lindsay is the most disrespected running back in the NFL. I mean,
by his front office, you mean?
By everybody, like the front office, the coaches, the fans, like not Broncos fans, but other fans, not like realizing exactly what he does. Like, I mean, we were all pretty down on Garrett Bowles, and he pulled it out this year, but Lindsey's been great since we got him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was interesting because today on Twitter it was really circulating a lot with that Lindsey had 450 carries without a fumble. He's the first running back in NFL history to have that many consecutive rushes without a fumble to start his career. So,
yep.
It's but that 55-yarder that started the whole comeback.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That was a catalyst for everything. Was that run right there,
Mm-hmm.
which kind of makes you wonder why don't they give Lindsey the ball more? Like there was at least 4 separate occasions in the second half. Lindsey was wide open and did not throw him the ball. Now, again, I don't know if that's designed not to throw him the ball or if Locke is just not seeing him or what the issue is. But there's at least 4 plays where he was wide open through the middle and could have gotten at least 20 yards.
Well, maybe he's using him to just run off for like the dump off route. And like you said, Mike, it could be that Drew Lock doesn't see him or Drew Lock is trying to wait for that, home run play. But be that as it may, at least Drew Lock kept the interceptions to just 1. If he can go into this coming Sunday and keep it to none, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But on that play where he threw an interception, it almost seemed like it was a bit of another miscommunication with him and Judy. Because if Drew Lock throws that ball like 5 more yards, Jerry Judy catches it and he's gone.
Yep.
But it's just the offense still trying to find its rhythm. And if they can find the rhythm in 1 quarter, just imagine what they can do in 4. And the only thing that I just hope doesn't happen is that we don't keep getting these bursts where the Broncos are good when their backs are against the wall, because that's just too much pressure on this team, and you can't always count for a flag or a timeout or whatever to come and bail you out, because that's not always going to happen.
Well, the good news is if we are a team that needs our back against the wall, we're playing the Chargers and the Falcons in back-to-back weeks. So at least we have 2 teams that don't seem to be able to close out a game, which is nice.
So real quick, I want to welcome in Richie and Bawana and Christy and Vic. And Vic left that for me. I don't have to watch the hair jokes in this one. All right, so let's just fully dig into the second half. Not going to say it was perfect. There still were some issues that I saw, good and bad. The play calling definitely seemed to lean more towards throwing to the middle and opening things up in the middle. There were wide receivers open on multiple levels, on every play at least. Hamilton, Alberto, and Hamler. Those are 3 names I wasn't expecting to say a whole lot this year. Killed it this game, especially Hamilton. Definitely made up. Well, I wouldn't say he fully made up, but he at least brought some goodwill forward from the crap show that he showed a couple games ago.
Yeah.
And hats off to him because he's reading I'm sure he's glued to Mile High Roundtable and he's hearing us trash him when
of course
the balls are bouncing off his chest and surefire touchdowns. But he was so clutch in this game. Even hanging on to that pass late where he was flung down to the ground, slammed down. He was clutch when Tim Patrick was not there, and just we needed that. It was a great showing, and hopefully it extends to the rest of the season.
Yeah. Now there were 2 specific things that I saw that I think definitely helped bring the offense to where they were in the second half. And both of them have to do with Drew Lock. One was he was staying in the pocket. He was trusting the line to block for him, and he was staying in the pocket. And when he did that allowed him to step into his throws. So he wasn't throwing wild off his back foot, and he wasn't always bailing out on the outside and possibly getting hurt. Those were 2 big things that I saw him doing that I think definitely helped. Now, he was still staring down his receivers, but he was letting them get open before he threw it. So like on that Hamilton, what was that, like a 30-yard touchdown catch and run? He stared him down the whole way, but he waited until he got open, and then, which is, it's not great, but it's okay when you have receivers that are fast enough and good enough on their routes to get open. So it wasn't perfect. There's still some things to improve on, but just improving the pocket presence and stepping into throws, you could see the difference.
Yeah, I don't really so much mind the staring down receivers because Drew Lock's not the only quarterback that does that.
It just makes me nervous because eventually he's going to get caught, and there's going to be like a 4 or 5 interception game, which I'm not a fan of.
I would much rather him find his own way. If staring down receivers and not throwing it right away is what works for him, then more power to him. But if it's one of those things where he's watching one guy from the snap and then he throws it, then that's a problem.
Yeah.
But I think that he came back and he redeemed himself in that quarter. And like I said, this offense is starting to find their groove. They're starting to find the plays and the strengths that the wide receivers are in. They're starting to find what plays Jerry Jeudy is stronger and weaker against. Same thing with Hamilton. And when Patrick comes back, pretty much the same thing. But so far, Tim Patrick has been their go-to guy for the deep threats. He's been able to catch almost every ball that's been thrown down his way when it came to one-on-one coverages. So hopefully Tim Patrick gets cleared to play against Atlanta this weekend. And if he does, we'll be seeing more of those plays as well as the combo of Phillip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, it looks like Tim Patrick was limited in practice. Yesterday. It hasn't updated for today yet. At least not on here. There it did. Limited practice.
Think about our aerial attack right now. I mean, without Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Albert O, Noah Fant. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. Gordon on the last drive, and I know we're going to get to that, but I mean, he made one incredible catch and a reach for the first down.
Yeah.
It's we have a lot of weapons, and when you look at the ages of these guys and the fact that Locke's even only 23 years old, the future is really bright. And if we can make a little run here, the season could be bright. We're only 3-4. I mean, we're one win away from 500, evening things out with a win in the division. I don't think that's too bad right now.
Is it just me, or does that make you feel really old? Drew Lock is 23 years old. That makes me feel really old.
You could be my
I'm not even that old, but that makes me feel really old.
A little bit.
Okay. Let's see.
If I could read this too, I was looking for the tweet from Dan Orlovsky, who's now with ESPN, but he's famous for really committing to a play and running out the back of the end zone, which is one of the greatest highlights for the Lions I've ever seen. But 2 days ago, he said, for the Broncos, their QB, Drew Lock, did a lot of good things in the comeback made 4 absolutely big boy throws. But the reason the comeback happened was his eyes were so good moving defenders to create open windows for these throws. Awesome to see.
Yeah. Well, and I don't remember what I was watching, but it was Brian Baldinger was the narrator for it. I don't know if he was running it or not, but it was breaking down every good throw or every touchdown pass that Drew Lock had in the second quarter or in the second half, and so it would play it in slow motion, and you could see that he'd snap the ball, go right to his receiver, and then watch him all the way down the route, and then do a pump fake, get that guy open, and then throw it. So he was still watching him the entire way, which is what makes me nervous, because that's where you start getting those smart defenders that are going to come crashing down and throw those stupid interceptions. Even that one he had in the game, that again, another double coverage interception. He threw it again into double coverage. So, Richie was kind of saying, I don't mind Drew doing what you're not supposed to because others do it too. Not really a fan of that, and I get it. But that's something that can be fixed. That's something that can get worked on. It kind of seems like it was more like during the halfway through the third quarter, the coaches were like, all right, Drew, just go play. Don't think about anything. Just go out there and throw it. That's kind of what it seemed like. Because I don't understand how it could automatically just click like that. So something had to have changed where they're like, just don't even think about it. Don't worry about your reads. Don't worry about your routes. Just throw the ball. It's kind of what it seemed like.
Yeah. Basically, Drew Lock is starting to come into his own little, I don't even know if you want to say bubble, but he's starting to find his players, his go-to guys. Albert O played some really good football this week, this past weekend, and I feel that we are just seeing what's going to be a great relationship between him and Noah Fant. Why we still have Nick Van Ed on this team, I don't know. Jake Butt unfortunately got put back into IR.
I was going to say, speaking of cheeky, we can't say cheeky and not bring up Butt.
And I'm telling you,
I was waiting for that one.
We've probably seen Jake Butt for the last time in a Broncos uniform if he doesn't ever hit the field this season. I don't see the team bringing him back. If I'm not mistaken, Troy Fumagalli.
Yeah, they were talking about bringing him in to replace him.
Yeah, but I don't know if he'll be able to play this weekend. He might be just for future depth down the line.
Well, and I know that Vanette is hurt too. He was limited in practice with a foot injury, so I mean that could be another. I'm not saying they're going to replace Vanette, but it's not like he's the greatest tight end in the world. Like he can block. Yay!
Nah.
So if they get rid of Jake, the headline has to be "butt out."
Well, he still has that Charmin deal, so he's got that going for him.
Scoring with the cheeks, getting rid of the butt. That's got to be some kind of record, like 2 butt touchdowns is basically what it was.
Yeah, what was that, Don? What did you say? John Madden was the one that
oh yeah, two butt cheeks equals 1 set of feet.
I mean, does it have to be 2 butt cheeks, or can it just be 1?
Or 1 cheek, sorry.
Is
1
it
cheek equals
okay.
2 feet. Yeah, I said that wrong.
That works. That's just, I just find it funny that like one of the major touchdowns that helped us get back in the game with Alberto was a butt cheek touchdown, and then the one that won us the game was a butt cheek touchdown.
Yeah.
So,
the first one was with the left one, and then the second one was with the right.
Right one. There you go. we had to make it even.
When KJ scored that, how great was it that Judy just like absolutely just wrecked him? Just
yeah, he took him down. They were both so happy.
But they were. I mean, they say KJ is what I know.
So sad, but he's done.
Yeah. See, Christy.
Yeah. They say KJ is 5'9", but there's no way. I mean, when after the game, literally everybody on the team was picking him up. It reminded me of Webster when they used to carry him around like Mam and George. But the energy, the best part of all of that was it happened to end the game. So they went into this week and into the following week on just the highest possible note that they could possibly go.
Yeah. Well, and that play made me nervous, because I hate it when he runs out of the pocket. And I don't know if it was on purpose or not. I'm assuming it was, like a design bootleg. But if you watch the play again and you see him looking at Hamler, look to the left. Albert O is running wide open in the end zone.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, when I watched that playback, I think it was supposed to be Drew Lock trying to run it close and maybe dive for the end zone. Yeah. But when that defender left his guard and he rushed Lock, then that left Hamler wide open, and then just that one amount of space, and Hamler was able to not just catch it but come down with it.
And I'd much rather have him make that throw than try to throw across his body to Alberto. I know he's got an arm, and he can mostly be accurate, but I would much prefer the butt cheek catch.
Yeah.
Richie says it was a twofer. He landed on both cheeks.
One thing I will admit Drew Lock has to really stop doing is throwing off of his back foot.
Yeah.
Because if you guys watched the Monday night game between the Giants and the Bucks, that's exactly what Daniel Jones kept doing. He kept doing it just to try to make a play. And that's the worst type of thing you can do as a quarterback, is try to make a play, because then you're not throwing at 100%. You're trying to do something I'm pretty sure coaches have taught you not to do.
Yeah.
And both of those led into interceptions. So it's dangerous. It's not meant for any quarterback to really do. It doesn't matter how talented you are, in my opinion. But if he can try to limit those, and I know he doesn't want to get hit. I don't want Drew Lock to get hit either. But if you can at least scramble out of the pocket and get rid of it, and by that I mean throw it out and not try to do something cute where you throw it to your wide receiver and you think it's going 5 yards out of bounds, and the defender can stick his hands out and tippy toe and it's an interception, like what happened against the Jets.
Now there was that story about Drew Lock basically taking responsibility for everything that happened in the first half, while there was like screams and yells and fights in the locker room, which I'd probably be yelling too. That was and he's always been good at taking responsibility for any mistake that he makes.
Mike, you can't yell. The punter's not allowed to yell.
I wouldn't even be the punter. I'd be the third string punter.
The long snap.
Nope, I wouldn't even be that. I'd be like the halfway snapper.
No, I'd be the guy that cleans the footballs. That's what I'd be doing.
I'd be the guy that handed you the football to clean. That would be my job.
That's the ref.
I keep going back and thinking about that second half, and for the life of me, I can't figure out what changed. Like, did Shermer start calling different plays? It didn't look like he did. I don't know. What did all they need was just that one big spark from Lindsey? Like, I'm one of those guys that there's got to be an explanation for something. So what changed between the first half and the second half? And it wasn't even the start of the third. Like, they still allowed a touchdown at the beginning of the third, and then came in with like 7 minutes left in the third, and then they gave it to Lindsey and scored that touchdown. But was it just a spark, or was there something else that I'm not seeing that allowed them to go on that run?
I basically think it was just Pat Shurmur going through another part of his playbook, because those type of throws that Drew Lock made were throws that we haven't really been seeing, and those were the throws that we've been crying for since the first half. Like we said at the beginning of the show, they kept doing all these, trying to do these cute dump offs and doing these, 2-3 yard gains. Why are you going for them when it's third down? Why are you trying to run the ball or do a scrimmage play on third down? It's that cute stuff that makes your team fall behind. So I think that it was just basically Shurmur. Yeah, that's basically what I was gonna say. Shurmur cut his playbook down. He probably took some plays that they haven't even run yet, and they said, okay, well, desperate time calls for desperate measures. Let's run these plays and see what happens. And the Chargers being the Chargers, they basically got caught off guard.
Yeah, and we had this conversation on the last podcast, and I'm not slamming Drew Lock. I'm okay with cutting down the playbook to make it easier to kind of get into it and get used to it, but you can't leave it cut down. If you leave it to where it's just a simple, basic offense, that's not what an NFL quarterback does. So I'm not blaming Drew Lock for that right now. I'm blaming the coaching staff for that. But as long as they can coach him and get him to where they can utilize the full playbook, that's okay. But if they have to keep it cut down like that, that's a problem. So I'm hoping that Shurmur and Shula can kind of figure that out, how to get him into it so that they can use those plays.
In the press conferences with Shurmur and then with Drew, I think it was Brandon Cristal was asking, about having Fant and Albert O on the field at the same time, and what kind of, when are we going to see that? And Shermer's like, they go out there on occasion, but like really to have some serious plays that would incorporate both of their skills. I don't think we've seen anything like that. I mean, Albert O is a gem. And Noah Fant, are you kidding me? I mean, he can just be sprinting. I mean, we have almost like an abundance of riches that we just need to get experience with, and that I think that, just going back to your original question about the play calling or the spark, I think it was a spark. I think that was the the Lindsey run all of a sudden made it possible for this could happen. I mean, this comeback could really stand a chance. And that's what is exciting about him. As far as not having him in a lot of the plays that we mentioned earlier, is I think there's a durability question on him, that they're worried that he rushes so hard on everything and really puts everything into all plays that he could, you don't want to injure the guy. You just take advantage of the fact that he's averaging over 6 yards a rush. His average rushing yardage is almost the same as Drew Lock's average attempts yardage. So the guy's a true weapon.
Well, and that's, I brought up earlier that, there were 3 or 4 plays that Philip Lindsay was wide open on, on a slant or a cut in or down the middle. I don't understand why they don't use him more in the passing game, because right now everybody knows they don't throw Philip Lindsay the ball. They let him run it. So if he's in there, he's going to run it. Well, throw it to him. See how much of the playbook that opens up, and start using those short passes to build on the long throws. If they've got to defend Philip Lindsay on the run and on the pass, that's leaving somebody, whether it's Albert O or Noah Fant or KJ Hamler or Tim Patrick or Judy, that's leaving somebody single coverage or man coverage or open outside.
Agreed.
So I don't understand why they're refusing to utilize Philip Lindsay. I get the durability issues. He's 5'2", like 100 pounds. He's a tiny guy. No, he's like 5'9", $190, I think is what he is, which is small for a running back. But when he's got the ball in his hands, you can't really stop him. So I don't understand why they're not taking some of the pressure off of Drew Lock and scheming to use Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay on the field at the same time to take that pressure off of Drew Lock. Like calling plays that utilize those two so that you don't have to put it all on Drew and footwork, and let him work into that and use Lindsay and Gordon in the pass game and the run game.
Just to make the point is that Lindsay was out for many games. I mean, he got hurt in the first game and he just came back. So it's one of the reasons why he's not, doesn't seem like he's had a lot of plays is because he really hasn't had a lot of plays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a question to you, Glenn, by Rich. Glenn, I have a question about the narrative. Do you think Lindsay going crazy like that is large part because the Broncos have basically flipped him the finger?
Rich, thank you for the question. I like when the attention is squarely on me. But, I think that's his nature because everybody has, if you think about it. He played for CU, they're a big program, but not a massive program. He comes out. He had every reason to be drafted. 32 teams blew him off for 7 rounds, to the point where when his hometown team called to sign him essentially on the cheap, he wanted to then tell them to pound sand, and his parents talked him into staying. I think that past has been the reason he does play so hard. He's got a massive chip on his shoulder, and we're the beneficiaries of it. The thing that scares me is that if they don't wrap him up for some level of an extension, it doesn't need to be ridiculous. It doesn't need to be super long. That he's just enough's enough. I mean, he's potentially going to have his 3rd straight 1,000-yard season to start his career.
Yeah.
He plays one more year for the hometown team, and he really could write his own ticket at that point.
I mean, honestly, like everything that we're talking about, offensive struggles, Pat Shurmur, Drew Lock, every single problem, Jawan James, no hair, all that stuff is not as bad as what would happen if the Broncos don't re-sign Philip Lindsay. Like, there's no excuse for that. You can see how the Broncos play when Philip Lindsay is not on the field. And then you can see how they play when he's on the field. So if you let him go, what is wrong with you? Like, I would much rather have Philip Lindsay than Justin Simmons. I just would. You can go and draft a safety and have a... Safety is not as important as running back. I don't care what anybody says. I know it's a passing league, but you can see the difference between when Philip Lindsay is on and when Philip Lindsay is off.
So, Mike, who do you think Adon would recommend as a replacement?
For who?
For Lindsay.
Say his name. Say his name. Bring him home, baby. Bring him home.
Maybe Muhammad?
Oh, yeah.
but I mean, even then, like, he's good and he's in the build of Philip Lindsay, but he's not Philip Lindsay. You know what I mean? Like, and I know that Melvin Gordon's playing well, but Melvin Gordon is not playing as well as Philip Lindsay. So it wouldn't make any sense to me to not sign Philip Lindsay. Like, to me, Bowles, Harris, and Lindsay are the three that you absolutely have to sign. And if you got Tag Simmons again, so be it. If you let him go, I'd be okay with that. I mean, he plays good sometimes, but this season he's been more bad than good. So I think Harris, Bowles, and Lindsay are the ones you have to resign.
I agree.
So one thing that we haven't talked about, actually, and when you were talking about re-signing players, it just made me think of like a renegotiation with Von Miller, perhaps. Is he suggesting that he could be back within 2 to 3 weeks? Did you say that?
Yeah, he was saying like beginning or middle of December he'd be back.
That man is hungry to play.
Which, I mean, there could be the possibility, and I know it's a long shot, but there's still the possibility that we could be in playoff contention. I'm not going to say we're a playoff team. We could be in playoff contention. So, I would love to have him come back, and even if he only comes back at half snaps, Malik Reed has proven that he can go in there and play at a high level.
Oh,
so if Von Miller can only come back and play half snaps, that's fine. We've got Malik Reed for that.
Well,
and we're getting back Atachu.
Well, and Atachu hasn't even played in the last couple games.
Yeah, he's been
so
hurt.
I mean, let me check and see.
He was full participation today, actually.
I think Atachu will be back on Sunday.
Yeah, it looks like it. Atachu, and then I wonder. Do you know has Boye? They got the concussion from Jackson. Is he gonna be back for the game on Sunday?
I don't know. I actually didn't read today's injury report.
He was a do not participate.
He was on the sideline. They asked Vic about that. So he was doing his stuff on the sideline, and they said, "What does that mean? That he's not playing?" And he said, "That just means that's just part of the protocol."
And I mean, like I get it that sometimes you hit your own guys, but it seemed like Jackson didn't even make contact with the Charger player. All he hit was Boye.
Well, you gotta look at it this way. If Jackson hits the Chargers player, that would have more than likely been a flag, because the way Jackson was coming.
I'd rather have a flag than no Boye.
I know, but you got to realize that if they get a flag, that puts the Chargers damn near in the red zone. So I'm not condoning what Jackson did. I said earlier this week somewhere else that while I do appreciate the intensity that Jackson came with, he almost got flagged again when he ran into Pope, and
that was big.
Yeah, that was big, and I automatically threw my hands in the air because I was like, "Oh, that's a flag."
Oh crap!
But
Don stopped folding his jersey enough to
just throw it up, and then start folding it again.
No, I'm telling you. Actually, what was I doing? Oh, on that very last play, I had my dog on my lap. And when they scored, I almost flipped my dog halfway across the room. Just
don't do that.
From being overly excited. Yeah.
That's a Saint Bernard.
No, he's a little terrier. But basically, the only issue I had with the defense was with Bradley Chubb. He wasn't as the Bradley Chubb that we've been seeing the last 2 weeks. I felt that his presence, he was there, but it could have been better. The only time that I heard his name called was when he caught those 2 flags. For I think both of them were for illegal contact.
Yeah, it did seem like the Chargers' offensive line held up better than I thought they were going to.
Yeah.
I mean, they haven't been playing well, but they played pretty good.
Yeah, I know they did hit Herbert a couple of times, but I don't remember. I'm not saying they didn't sack because according to the
Yeah,
stats, they did get 2 sacks.
yeah, but it wasn't like a 2 for Reed, 2 for Chubb
Yeah, it seems
kind of
like
kind of game.
it was just Herbert who collapsed in the pocket
Yeah,
type of sack. So hopefully we get those guys back this week against Atlanta.
Vic chiming in on Philip Lindsay. Love the Colorado kid, pay him, but I also would love for us to draft a bigger running back. That's just me. I mean, technically we did. Like that was the whole Royce Freeman Philip Lindsay experiment, and Royce Freeman just isn't Melvin Gordon like a bigger running back though? Like that was
He
kind of
is.
the point, wasn't it? Like run in the middle, go out and catch a pass.
He
I don't
is,
think
but
he's even 6 feet.
you can thank Derrick Henry for that formula because ever since he came into
Lordy,
the
that's a
league,
big boy.
yeah, ever since he came to the league, he's the one that started implementing that. Hey, we need a bigger running back on this
Yeah.
team.
Oh, and by the way, Glenn, I picked up Corey Davis on my fantasy team
There you go.
because he's such a
Hamilton.
bad receiver.
Deshaun went all Corey Davis on the.
But yeah, Derrick Henry's a big boy. He's like what 6'4", 260?
Did you ever see the picture of him standing next to Mark Ingram? And Ingram,
Or Deion Lewis.
it looks like Russian.
It's kind of like the picture of Bowles next to Vic Fangio.
Yeah,
It kind of looks like that.
yeah, like a grown man next to a child.
Yeah, that's a big boy. My wife keeps calling Derrick Henry a unicorn or a backwards unicorn because he's got that little
the rat tail.
the rat tail spike hanging out of his helmet.
Mm-hmm.
So let's we got about 15 minutes. So let's go into the Broncos Falcons game. What do you think is going to be key to winning the game, and do you see any matchups that we can take advantage of?
Well, defensively, the Falcons have gotten a little bit better since they had a change of coaching, but I don't think it was enough to say, "Hey, the Falcons are watch out for the Falcons." Because if you saw last Thursday night, they barely squeaked by the Panthers. So, but that doesn't take anything away from Matt Ryan. I think Matt Ryan is playing some decent to good football. And Julio Jones, even though he's not the Julio Jones of old in his prime, he can still be a threat.
Yeah.
But seeing as what the Broncos defense did against the Chargers, they pretty much held Keenan Allen out of the end zone. Mike Williams did have I say it was a lucky touchdown catch, and I don't know the name of the other player that caught the first touchdown for the Chargers. But I think this is a game that the Broncos should be able to win easily. It shouldn't have to come down to the wire. But that's without saying that the Broncos being on an away game, they have to come out and start shooting on all cylinders. They have to put up points on the board and stop going with these 3-and-outs and wearing out our defense.
Well, if you look at the Falcons and you kind of think that the formula they have on their wide receivers, so they've got Julio and they've got Calvin Ridley, is kind of the formula that the Broncos were looking at with Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah.
Except we have like 8,000% more talent than that.
If I'm not mistaken, Ridley is questionable for Sunday.
Yeah, he went out with
A foot injury last Thursday.
Yeah, he didn't practice today.
Yeah, so he's questionable.
So when you look at the Falcons being 2-6, the fact that the offense is really putting up the numbers. I mean, Matt Ryan has the most passing yardage in the NFL. He's above even Patrick Mahomes right now. He's got nearly 2,500 yards passing, 12 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 67% completion rate. He's doing well. Looking at Todd Gurley has 531 yards rushing and 8 touchdowns. I mean, the team wishes he had 7 touchdowns, but that's a whole other story from the other week. But I mean, he's 4th in rushing in the entire NFL, and it's funny that you don't think of Todd Gurley. He just seems like he's disappeared. Especially from the fantasy players over the last couple of years. But they just have a very hard time giving up leads at the end of the game, and so that's why if they're having trouble closing out games, it would be great, like Adon suggested, is if we could get on a hot start at the beginning and a nice potent rushing attack and some dump passes that get us some yards and get us down the field, I think would make a big difference.
Well, and this is so looking at those stats that you just said about Matt Ryan, he does have the most passing yards in the NFL. But Patrick Mahomes, 21 touchdowns, 1 interception. Matt Ryan, 12 touchdowns, 4 interceptions.
Okay.
So with that, no. What I'm saying is, like, with that many yards, that just means that they're not finishing in the red zone. Like, they're not able to punch the ball in, and they don't have a rushing attack. So it's not like the running backs for the Falcons are picking it up. Like, Todd Gurley is not playing like. Todd Gurley's playing like what we thought Le'Veon Bell's going to play like for the Chiefs. He's there on name recognition, but he's not really the Todd Gurley from back in the day.
He still has 8 touchdowns.
Yeah, so I'm not comparing Matt Ryan to Patrick Mahomes. I'm just saying that, like, with that many yards and only having that many touchdowns, they're not able to put it in the red zone.
Good point.
And it seems like, especially last game, the defense for who the Falcons play? Panthers. The Panthers defense is not that good, but they played pretty well against the Falcons, and Matt Ryan was not able to get it fit. Like, once Calvin Ridley was out and all he could do was throw to Julio Jones, didn't really have anything else. And if you're playing a strong defense, you can't focus on one player anymore. That's not how it works.
Yeah, we also need to have a stronger showing from our linebackers because they're going to have a rematch with Todd Gurley. And even though this isn't the rematch against Todd Gurley from when he was with the Rams 2-3 years ago, when Gurley ran all over Denver.
Yeah.
Well,
and I was going to say, I love me some Honey Bear, but my God, that guy is slow. Woo! Woo!
Yeah, he got some pretty good criticism from the coaches this week, and I don't know what game they were watching, but I only remember seeing like one good play out of him. The rest of the time, the linebackers were getting torched by a practice squad running back guy named Tremaine Pope.
Yeah. Well, and Honey Bear and I can't even remember his name now. It's just Honey Bear. Honey Bear and
Alexander Johnson.
I was saying I can't remember. It's Honey Bear. I can't remember.
Josie Jewell.
Jewell and Johnson are those prototypical middle linebackers that stuff the run, but aren't very good out in coverage. And like you can blitz the quarterback with them and have great success, but if you get them outside to cover a receiver, they're not fast enough to keep up. It's just not going to work. Which is why we were looking forward to Barron going in there because he's at least better on coverage. Not saying he's great. He's not an all-pro, but he's at least fast enough to keep up.
Yeah, and we might be without Shelby Harris if he doesn't clear COVID protocols. We're already without Mike Purcell. He's done for the season. And
they said there were no tests. There were no positive tests. So as far as I know, as long as there's another one, they're clear, I believe.
He'll have to clear tomorrow because the team leaves on Saturday. So if he wants to be on that plane, he needs to clear all tests tomorrow.
But that's that's one of the things that I was kind of curious about is we've got those middle linebackers that are good at stuffing the run, but it didn't seem like they did a very good job stuffing the run last game. Like they got gashed pretty good.
Yeah.
So I mean, are we going to see the Gurley that we've seen in the last 3 games where he doesn't really do much? He averages like 2 yards a carry. Or are we going to see what's the other running back? Hill? Is that the backup? I think he averaged like 5 yards a carry in the last game. So
Todd Gurley is going through the exact same thing that Ezekiel Elliott went through, and that's that they were made great because of their offensive lines. Well,
but at the same time, Gurley's got the I was going to say Alzheimer's. That's not it. He's got the arthritis in his knees. He's pushing 30.
Yeah.
And I know that like 30s is a cutoff, but with Adrian Peterson, it's not really a cutoff.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on the running back.
I know that Gurley does have an injury issue, but it's not something that's so severe that completely, crippled his play. Because if that was the case, he probably wouldn't be playing in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
So, but that's just my opinion, the way how I see it, because Gurley coming over to the Falcons, they were hoping to get that explosive Gurley that they've been seeing in St. Louis in his tenure there, and they haven't gotten.
Yeah. So, I mean, Atlanta doesn't really have a run game. If they don't have Calvin Ridley, they just got Julio Jones. And who's their tight end? Is that Hunter Hurst? Hayden Hurst?
Hayden Hurst. If he cleared, I don't know. I think he was injured.
But, I mean, defensively for the Broncos, you've got to think that they match up like they over-match up. Like, we have way more corner or DBs and plenty of linebackers to let them sit back, cover whoever's on the offense, and just let the front seven run. Just let them blitz all game. What are they going to do? They don't have any. They don't have any weapons to counteract it. And maybe I'm looking at it wrong. It doesn't seem like, the run game's not there. The offensive line isn't the greatest. If they're without Hurst and they're without Ridley, they've got Julio Jones, and he's getting to the point where, I'm not saying he's past his prime, but he's getting up there in age. So, he can't be the old Julio Jones anymore. So I don't see how Atlanta's offense can compare with Denver's defense.
Do you know who Matt Ryan's backup quarterback is?
No.
Matt Shawn.
Really? He's still playing?
I was about to say, he's still in the league? That match
I thought for sure he got murdered in a game once and didn't play anymore.
Isn't that hilarious that he's still around?
The man that threw probably more touchdowns to DeAndre Hopkins than any other Texans receiver in their franchise history. That Matt job?
And you thought we were scared to have our backup quarterback come in at the beginning of the season.
No, yeah. So I think one of the keys for Denver winning the game is, and the big ones are obviously Drew Lock playing well. I honestly think it's give Lindsey the ball more. You've got to let Lindsey run the ball. Let him run it, throw it to him out in the flat, bootleg it out to him, RPO, whatever you need to do, get Lindsey the ball more.
I can't disagree with that. I think that's
good. I didn't want you to.
It's the power of the pom-pom today.
That was weird. Shut up, phone.
I was about to say, that's definitely not me.
That was my phone.
That was someone who disagrees with Mike.
Probably.
It's nice that you're friends with Clay Aiken.
I know, right? That was a song off of Glee. Shut up. Okay, so we what?
I feel like I should start singing "Don't Stop Believing."
Don't judge me. All right, so how do you, I'm trying to move on and I can't. What are you thinking the game's going to look like? How do you think it's going to end?
It's going to start with Michael Bublé singing the Star Spangled Banner.
It's not going to end with Michael Bublé.
With Mundungus immediately making that his ringtone.
Darn right. I just changed it too.
I'm going to go 27-17 Broncos. I don't see them losing that game. And in fact, I may be low on our point total.
You see what happens when you miss, Christy? You miss all the fun stuff.
Oh, I didn't have my phone on silent. That's why.
Yeah. Way to go, Mike.
My bad. 27-17. What do you got, Adon?
I got 28-10 Broncos.
That's a good one.
I'm going to be a little out there. And I'm going to say 38-10 Broncos.
I like that too. I can definitely see Atlanta getting a garbage time touchdown, but there is no way that this game should be close.
I wanted to say 28-3, but that's too cliche.
Yeah, I mean you got to think that Julio or if Calvin Ridley does play, one of them is going to get a touchdown. So going into the AFC West prediction.
He has an idea for your phone ring.
What is she? I didn't see it. Who did what?
He said, "Start singing Turn Around." I think
Turn around.
Turn around.
Every now and then I get a little bit nervous. All right, AFC West predictions. Glenn, you took the lead. You're winning.
I'm a winner. I'm not a
Seven. Glenn's the wiener. Glenn is 17-8. 6'10", and Christy are 16-9, and I am 13-12. Hey, I'm on the winning side of it. Yeah. Glenn, me and you went. We went 3-0 last week.
Yeah, we can.
And you know why? We got bailed out by the Raiders. That's why. That doesn't make me feel good. So we've all got Broncos. I'm just going to assume Christy's going to pick the Broncos. Christy, go ahead and comment, text, whatever you want to do. Otherwise, I'm going to pick for you. Panthers and Chiefs.
Chiefs.
Yeah, how do you pick against the Chiefs still? I mean, my goodness. They haven't given us any reason not to.
Raiders and Chargers.
I'm going to say Chargers.
Dude, it pains me 2 weeks in a row to go Raiders.
I was going to say the same thing. I'm going Raiders. Christy's going Raiders, too. No. She's going to kill me. Christy, I'm assuming, is going to go Chargers. But yeah. Let's go with Richie's got one here. 35-17 Broncos. Love it. It's close.
I love that score.
All right, so. Yeah. You think? Well, yeah. I'll give Chrissy the Chargers. I was gonna make her do the Raiders, but she'd be mad. All right, so
You'll have your head.
we need to go ahead and get out of here. So one more time, you can catch us live on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Make sure you click the thumbs up, subscribe, turn on notifications on our YouTube channel, on Twitter at MHRT Podcast. Leave us any questions, concerns. If it's a gripe or complaint, give it to Glenn. On Facebook, like and follow us on Facebook. And you can find us on Twitch. I'll have more about it next week. I haven't really looked into it. We appreciate every single one of you being in here. We love doing the podcast. It's fun, and we love talking Broncos. So let's hope that we get another win and bring it to 4-4. We're going to go ahead and head on out of here. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Thank you all.